I imagine the instant thing that we're going to launch into is like, oh, this is just bootleg Life of Brian, isn't it?
Well, here's the thing. So I haven't actually seen Life of Brian, which I thought about watching
What?
it beforehand. Yeah, no, I was raised in like an
Wow.
super evangelical. That was
No, I
heresy of
hadn't watched Life
heresies.
of Brian until I watched this movie.
And that's what I was like. I wonder what it's going to be like to watch this and then Life of Brian and kind of see what the differences are. Because based on like the Monty Python stuff that I've seen a lot of their stuff, but I hadn't seen that specifically. I do know I have come across people discussing it because they did do some like at the time relevant research of like what is Roman era Judea actually like, and so they kind of
Hmm.
actually found parallels to the modern culture, and it was very deeply researched, which seems shocking, actually, because there are elements of it that are like, from what I understand, pretty accurate to at least where the scholarship was at back in the day, and around like all the revolts against all of this stuff and how violent it got before the Jewish wars in the 60s and culminating in the destruction of Jerusalem in 70. And this movie is definitely not that. If it
No,
feels
I don't think Kulosh read Josephus.
no, I think I think this is much more. This feels much more Mel Brooks in that it's very much about. It still has that social satire because what we'll get into is this is a very French movie, like very French. But it's also kind of a satire of Ben Hur and movies like that, and especially Spartacus with all of the with the homoeroticism that's just dialed up to 1,000, which I
Well, I think this is done out of spite in this one. It's very clearly like not in good faith
No, no,
at a
no.
certain
That's yeah,
point.
exactly.
It turns into like cruising a little bit, when it jumps the
Oh
rails,
my
that's when
god.
like this is not in good
No,
faith.
no. That I was gonna yeah. We'll get into that a bit. That
We'll
that
get
is
into
kind of the.
that.
Well, anyway, welcome back to the Bible Lore Podcast. Before we get started on another edition of the Bible at the Movies, this time for the difficultly titled, and you'll have to correct me here, Deux heures, moins quart avant Jésus-Christ.
That's pretty good.
Okay.
Deux heures, moins quart avant
Ah,
Jésus-Christ.
god damn it.
And that's only because my honors French high school teacher beat it into me.
That's so funny.
But
I made my
yeah,
father-in-law, who's a French, like he was a French medievalist before he never ended up finishing his doctorate. But that was kind of like, I was like, okay, you got to say this to me so that I did okay. But
it's not bad. It's not
well,
bad.
thank you.
But it's a quarter to two before Jesus Christ. You know how a quarter to two BC
Yeah,
basically.
that's basically it. So yeah, and before we get into that, let me do the housekeeping up top.
Yes,
Um,
please.
if you're somebody who reads books, you'd like to read more about the Bible, you've heard me recommending all these books, I set up a bookshop.org online shop, and there's a link to that in the episode description. I've got a couple of lists set up of books that I recommend. One for books written by past Bible or podcast guest scholars, so you can support them. There's one for relatively easy reading, fun and entertaining, like the show. Something could be a gift, popular audience type material, but written by scholars who know their stuff. And then if you want to know like my favorite Bible translations, Dead Sea Scrolls translation, stuff like that, there's a list for the real dorks out there. So it's relatively introductory level stuff, but it's for the sickos out there. So make sure to check out that link and get some books. And this episode is going to release early for Patreon subscribers. So thanks to all of you out there who support the show. And if you'd like to become a member, go to patreon.com/Bible Lore Podcast. Enough of that stuff, though. It's time to bring in today's guest. You know him from Seeking Derangements. You know him from his guest spots on Chapo. And hopefully you know him from The Drain, his excellent California current events podcast. It's Max, a.k.a. Sweet Palma.
Hello.
Welcome to the Ale
Hello,
House at the end of
everyone.
the world, Max.
Bello. Oh my gosh. Yes, I do love that. I'm more of a fan of the space age futuristic restaurant they had in that Douglas Adams novel. What is it? The restaurant at the end of the world?
I forget what it's called. That's got to be. I haven't revisited that stuff since I was like a teenager, and I feel like I'd get so much more out of it now. Like it probably hit a lot better. The Hitchhiker's Guide.
Oh yeah.
stuff.
I read So Long and Thanks for All the Fish again, like all the shitty tech columns that he used to do, bitching about Apple and printers in the 80s, that he used to do for The Guardian. That is like pretty primo stuff and very ahead of its time. I know Douglas Adams gets a lot of shit for being Reddit and cringe, but he was right some of the time.
A
He's
lot
a
of those
Cory
guys
Doctorow in that way.
were kind of right. It's something people have been talking about lately is like all the
Him and
people were
Orson
talking
Scott
about
Card,
like,
dude.
oh well, Orson, Jesus, Orson Scott Card is from where I'm from. He's from Richland,
Yeah.
Washington. He's from the shitty desert southeast. Like that's where he grew up, where I grew up, and it's like,
Dry Washington.
and
Ooh,
oh yeah, it's bad. It does not
dire.
produce. It's him and I think Chuck Palahniuk are the two authors, which is quite a divergence there. Um, but Card is also like that was a part of Ender's Game that was so prescient was the like the shit posters kind of rising in forums, rising to levels of prominence. And for the longest time when I was a teenager, I was like, well, that never really panned out. That's kind of stupid. Like when I first read the book, I was
Look
like,
where we are now.
and holy fuck, he was right. He was wrong about, we'll say, a lot of other things. But you know,
He had Phase Clan all figured out.
it's true.
Like, do you realize that he
Yes.
had gamer clans and like, yeah, all that shit was real.
If he'd put
Read
hype
your book.
houses in it, I would think he was a time traveler. You know, he's like a bunch of. If he'd had like failure hype houses for guys who were like think they're going to be the next phase, that would have been, I think, primo. Like someone who the wannabe Ender. That there's an extended universe fan fiction waiting to be
Oh,
written.
the lab that Bean came from is the original hype house.
Oh my God!
The, the,
Yes, that's
where he
exactly
crawled
it.
into the toilet tank. Oh my God, you just unlocked an insane literature memory of
Holy
mine.
shit!
Anyway, can we get back to this topic at hand? I think we
Yeah.
went a
So
little far afield.
yeah, so Max hosts The Drain with Kempa. It's a really great show on California politics. So it feels like if you're kind of in the spaces that I'm in, which I know most of my listeners are, a lot of lefty media kind of focuses on either federal level in Washington or specifically New York City or Los Angeles, like as cities. And I feel like The Drain has been really helpful in showing how the state level politics are also incredibly important in a way that doesn't really get covered. Like even when you see like New York City coverage, it's not as much about the broader state, which is understandable. Half the population lives in the city, but it's still like extremely powerful. So yeah, make
Oh
sure to
yeah.
check that out whether you live in California or not. It's good to kind of keep abreast of what's going on in the world's whatever fifth largest economy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're working on a episode. We just did a little roundup of all the little bills that get that get turned in at the very end of the legislative session. There's a lot of really interesting ones that just like, little carve outs for like so and so's family business in like Arcata, California, and like that obviously gets vetoed. But it's funny to see that it like lasted all the way through the like legal calendar year
Yeah.
up until the very end to get booted out.
And sometimes you can see like a preview of what psychotic shit is going to be in the next legislative session, and like what are the crazy out there things that they think will be like available to them in 5 years or something.
We have two Cal Exit petitions ongoing, and one what is it? Like balkanization
Oh my
like
God.
program that they have. Like it's obviously not going to win. It's obviously not going to pass. But like every 5 years we get one of those. You're like, oh, we should have like 3 Californias instead. You know how cool it is with just one? Imagine if there were 3 of them. And obviously it goes nowhere. But a lot of like the state Republicans get attached to it because they would obviously win the middle California, not San Francisco and not Los Angeles.
Right.
They own the rest of it.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. All the areas around it, you get like Sacramento and things like that. That is.
Roseville.
I'm
is-
excited for
oof.
the Jimmy Kimmel separatist bill to be put forward pretty soon here. So the secession bill for Kimmel diehards. So Max,
Yeah.
how shifting gears, what's your experience with the Bible? Did you grow up with it in like a religious context, or is
Yeah.
it more of a recent interest?
It's an ongoing interest. I grew up in a very religious household. I'm the third kid, so my brothers remember a time before my parents got very Catholic, but I do not remember a time before my parents were super Catholic. I literally, I come from a country that is named after Jesus Christ. It feels a little bit like nominative determinism one.
There you go.
Um, and and my family's from El Salvador. I lived there for a few years, and my parents were very, very in with the Catholic hierarchy there. Like they would host the nuncio, and like I got my first communion from the papal like ambassador to El Salvador,
Wow.
right? My parents took that shit super serious. And when we came up to the States, it was more of the same. We all, got involved in a big way with the local parish, etc. My mom is like the lead Spanish liturgy person for our local parish. So they are very much involved. And my parents were always very much like very academic about it too,
Oh,
which
cool.
helped.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have my mom's a Thomist. She loves the works of Thomas Aquinas and has a couple of bookshelves dedicated to Thomism and the old Jesuit thinkers, Gonzaga, Loyola, etc.
Jeez.
Saint Francis Xavier. So they're very hardcore about it.
Yeah,
And then
that's the real shit.
so they sent my ass off to Catholic school. I went to the Jesuit high school here in Sacramento. And I guess I only stopped because it wasn't like a cool way to spend an hour every Sunday. Like, there's nothing else. It's like, oh, I fucking hate this thing. No, I mean, it's just like, it's not something that I want to think about on a spiritual level. It's cool to think about on a historical level, right? Because they were
Right.
so close to the levers of power for so fucking long. At
Yeah.
least the ones that, the levers that mattered in Europe in like the 1500s, etc. But that is also a neat, unique thing.
Well, yeah, and I mean that
But
that
yeah,
especially coming from Latin America, that is also a like the dynamics there are so fascinating because you like even though it's so Catholic, you still get like these Protestant missionaries. I've known missionaries who've gone to El Salvador, and it's like, okay, so it's like 90%
Mormons
Catholic or
now.
Mormons now. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean they'll
yeah.
get there too.
They've just built a giant temple in the middle of downtown, and this bit of land in San Salvador that was just like super dense, like almost like an unofficial ecological preserve. It hadn't been dictated as such. It was never feasible to build on it. It just smack in the middle of the city. They took it over and paved like the whole thing to become like this giant marble chode.
Beautiful, beautiful
Yeah.
work of art. It's in the ancient style,
It,
of
it
course, from 150
have
years
you seen
ago.
all those videos, by the way, of like the missionaries going down there and eating like 30 pupusas, and everybody's like freaking the fuck out. They're like
Jesus.
converting to these like corn-fed white boys immense feats of strength, eating 40 pupusas in one go.
God,
Yeah, I don't know. They're
incredible.
winning.
Yeah, I mean, and it is one of those weird things because the Protestant fear of papism has been sort of turned on its head as these critical infrastructure of like the Catholic Church is tied to the state in a lot of places around there. They have very close relationships for good and
Oh
often
yeah.
for ill. And yet there is this like inverse of like the 18th century, like the papists are coming, no Irish need apply sort of Protestants are actually coming there, and for the most part, they are basically doing what they accused the Catholics of doing back then by bringing in this religion that more than anything seems to have fealty towards the American ideal and the American state as like
Oh yeah.
its core, which is such a fascinating kind of reversal of fortune where that's exactly what they accused the Catholics of doing, which the Catholics never would have and never really were, except for like a brief period, able to do. And that was only localized to like Europe, as close to France and Italy as you could get. Whereas now we can actually, America can and does actually exercise that kind of hegemony where you should be afraid of these evangelical missionaries coming in and like turning your shit around.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's not really said. I mean, I think it's also almost taken for granted how ingrained the Catholic Church is in many of these societies. I'm reading a lot right now about Guatemala. I've been telling everybody about this thing that I want to do. I want to do a history podcast, a narrative history podcast on like Republican Guatemala.
Dude, I,
But
I would I would love to check that out because that is like a key part of it. You know, Rios Montt converts to evangelical Christianity and it creates this door for the Reagan administration that previously they'd had this distrust. And there is this fascinating point in like between like 1981 and 1983 where that all plays out. The evangelicals kind of win. And that is such fascinating history.
I'm going further back, right? I'm going like right all the way to the Bourbon reforms because
Oh,
that is
wow.
when
Yeah.
that is when these statelets of Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Costa Rica are formed,
Right.
and that is the germ from which these entities, independent countries, comes about. And a lot of these, the first like interstate conflicts that happened in the 1820s happened because of church stuff, because there's no bishop in San Salvador, right? And there is one in Guatemala, but he's too busy, inaugurating the government and writing the Constitution, and he doesn't want to be part of it because he was a royalist, but he's still there because the Pope wants him there. And so, like in the meantime, there's like a backlog of 5 years worth of new priests aren't being consecrated. So towns are and churches have no priest. You have places where marriages aren't being consecrated. There's a huge step in Catholic social life is when you're 18 or you're 14, you have not first communion, but confirmation.
Yeah.
Right. And that is huge. That's like your bar mitzvah. But,
You get your name. It's like, and I feel like,
yeah,
especially
it's
today,
huge.
it's reduced in significance, but you have to put your feet in those shoes of like someone back in the 19th century.
Oh yeah, and if that doesn't happen, then like if you die without it, like you could go to hell. Like that's a real uh, breathing fear that these people have. That I won't get extreme unction because there's no priest available, because he wasn't ordained because there was no bishop in the city, because the bishop that we got is really far away. It's like a week to go from San Salvador to Guatemala City. Even today, like it's super
Oh
close. It's
yeah,
like a 15-minute flight.
there's no like highway. That is the like mountainous jungle area, which is why there were so many battles fought there. It's like a guerrilla wet dream.
It's crazy. It really is crazy. But yeah, no, that all that stuff is really fascinating, and that is part of, I guess, the lineage of my relationship with Christianity. Is just like
Yeah.
you did these things because you had to, which I suspect is the way that everyone kind of is brought up into that. Unless you're like a Carlo Acutis type person who's like really with it from a young age and like dies young. You don't
Right.
have that doubt. That seed of doubt germinate.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know.
Cool.
It is
That-
what it is.
That's great, and I'm super looking forward to whenever you start working on that Guatemala
Oh God,
stuff.
maybe
So
in like
that'll
5 years.
Well, I would
I'm still
love
reading
to
a bunch
see
of like the primary sources from like the 1700s. The little bit that remains that's still like online accessible. And there's a
yeah.
lot of shit that's not that you got to go digging, and I have not had the chance. I won't get the chance for a while.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so we'll see if I can get away with doing it. How about that? In the
Absolutely.
next year.
Absolutely. So
All right.
you say it. You have to say the title.
Oh yeah, Deux heures, moins quart, avant Jésus-Christ.
Phenomenal.
Two and a
Quarter to two BC.
Quarter to two BC. That's right.
Yep.
It's a movie by Jean Yan, who is a French comedian, philosopher, like one of these public intellectual. I think he also did the score for the movie, like one of these everymen,
Oh,
like
wow.
an Orson Welles type, I guess,
Yeah.
in that era of French cinema. And it is It does not play like an Orson Welles movie at all. Maybe like The Other Side of the Wind, but it has a very gonzo feeling that is not, shall we say, very congruent with like
Yeah.
the time period.
Yeah, the
You
other side of
expect,
the wind, if it was like co-directed by Mel Brooks and Federico Fellini in like his 8.5 era.
yeah, Federico Fellini off some cava maybe,
Yeah,
and
exactly. Absolutely.
on a lot of Quaaludes, on a lot of Quaaludes, honey.
Yeah. So the kind of the premise is essentially, what if like a 20th century worker was Ben-Hur or Spartacus or someone like that, sort of leading a revolt? It's very much like a parody of these kind of big, grandiose biblical epics. Ben-Hur, Spartacus. I guess Spartacus isn't technically biblical, but kind of these period piece Roman sword and sandal sort of movies. It has been compared to Life of Brian. It has so many like zany gags, like intentional anachronisms. But it doesn't have a lot of the like mugging at the camera that I associate with like
No.
late era Brooks, or God forbid, Mike Myers is like that. There isn't like a lot of like wink wink, see, you get it, right? They do kind of, I did appreciate that they kind of just let all the gags fly, and don't like try
Yeah,
to
they don't try
over
to prop
explain
them
them.
up.
Yeah, and they do like they do intentionally obfuscate like what time period this is in. It's supposedly like right before Jesus is born, but they're talking about like, oh, this guy was from the reign of his line gave us Nero and Titus, and all these first and early second century Roman
They have
emperors.
TVs going on in the
Yeah,
bar. They have talking about like the OPEC, but it's not
but
oil, it's oats.
it's oats. Yeah, OPEC, but oats was such a stupid gag. I loved it, and I used to walk by whenever I was in Vienna the OPEC like headquarters there, like their local outpost, and I was like, man, this is like the center of human evil just meets here. You just smell it
The
coming
Viper's
off of the
Den,
plane.
dude. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Fucking fire and brimstone on the sidewalk, man. Yeah.
and this kind of like so I really appreciated that little bit. And it's
When I lived in Spain, sorry, just to every little bit of Europe is like this, right? Because like I lived in Spain, I lived on Luis Carrero Blanco Avenue. For those who don't know, that is the first Spanish astronaut, the guy that got on Operation Ogro by those Basque militants. If you know, you know, but they
oh
have not changed the street name.
wow,
They are fucking with him. Yeah.
that's crazy.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no, totally.
Oatpeck is a hilarious.
It was so good. So that's the
Yeah.
kind of what you're dealing with, is that it does take this fact that it like takes the fact that Rome was so like cosmopolitan and interconnected, and plays it up to like use.
But this is not Rome,
You're right. It's
right?
set in North Africa,
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
Roman Empire. So it's not Rome the city, but it is Rome the empire, and it's like Cleopatra is still alive. But the idea is that Caesar's coming to vacation in at his home in North Africa, and he's potentially going to meet with Cleopatra, who's like a suitor for becoming his husband. Which we'll get to that in a
Oh
bit.
God.
so,
There's layers to this.
so this came out in like what 1982, I think.
1980, 1982 is
Yeah.
what my records. I bought the album. I have it at home because
The music
there are
is
some bangers on it.
the gay club scene. We'll get to that, but it starts out like with a traffic jam, and it as a way of introducing like the problems of Roman administration. And it starts out in a pub in what feels like something out of, I don't know, an Emile Zola novel, where it like it's all these workers just complaining about who's gonna do something about these bastards that keep ruining our lives. Um,
It reads a little bit like a pamphlet, doesn't it?
yeah, it totally does. So they're like, oh, the Romans, they're always, they're ruining everything, and the consul who rules over the area on behalf of Rome doesn't do anything for us. And one guy gets up and gives a rousing speech. His fellow barflies just push him right out of the door, and that's our main character. They basically say, you're going to go and talk to the consul on our behalf. Great, you gave a great speech. You're going to lead this thing. It's all on you. And that's Ben-Hur Marcel, um, our
A
main
humble
character.
taxi driver.
A humble and mechanic, or his friend the mechanic.
Yes, his friend is a mechanic, I believe. Yeah, it is. I don't think the plot is that important, to be honest. It
No,
is kind of like a excuse to string along gags in front of the screen. In that way, it is very much like a Mel Brooks film. It's like hell's a poppin'.
yeah, exactly. It's not like, I wouldn't say it's like super loosely written, but it's definitely uses it as like a vehicle for gags and bits and
Yeah.
like and sketches, essentially, of like the different scenes play out very much like complete sketches, that just go from one to the next, which I think works pretty well, for the most part. Um, so
Sure.
he
I mean, what more do you want?
Nothing.
Yeah.
So he goes up to plead to the consul for better conditions, and immediately, as the consul starts berating him and the like guards everyone else backs away silently, which I think was a good bit. And he's left standing alone. He's arrested. He's set to be executed. And this is where it's, again, it very much is playing on, I don't know, the funny part is that despite it being primarily a parody of all of these other movies, some of the realities of Rome still kind of flow through that layer, because I think that's why people are so interested in this history, because it does in a lot of ways play out in ways that are relevant for like France, and even for like Latin America. They everyone,
Hmm.
so many people in the West, no matter how far removed, end up kind of likening themselves to Rome. Simone Bolivar going onto that hill in outside of Rome and basically saying, "I'm going to be just like the Roman plebeians, pleading their case and gaining rights for the plebeian class, the veto and all of that." And so I think
Totally.
that is what like makes it such a good avenue for this, on top of the fact that it's just culturally significant. You could just throw Cleopatra into this and nobody blinks an eye. um,
Yeah. It's not like they're like checking in the theater. It also it is its own bit to like bring in anachronisms and be like, just have a send up of Danny Boy where he's like rapping to the camera or whatever. Like that's why Hamilton is big, right? Because like that intellectual dissonance between rap and the war for independence, or sorry, the war for betrayal of England. That disconnect is what makes it compelling, and I think it's the same thing with this film, where all these little like very background gags, like for example having like a fire engine cart in the opening scene and stuff, and like jackbooted thugs
yeah,
who are also,
police
like the
officers that are called the police officers. All the signs, or like Shell Corporation advertising stuff like that is
yeah,
it's good.
perfect.
It's perfect. Um, so the Roman consul is worried that all of this revolt talk will fuck up him hosting Caesar and Cleopatra and kind of being able to keep the peace there. So he decides to release Ben-Hur Marcel on the condition that Marcel stages a false flag attack on Caesar's procession, which then he can use as like a pretext to crack down on all of this revolt talk, which is, I feel like, very it's great. It's very much in the realm of like the conspiracy brain stuff, but also these sorts of things did and do happen. That is a thing.
I mean, this is concurrent with like the years of lead, the actual years of lead in Italy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. It's very much in the air in Europe at the time. Just like, it's funny. Like 9 years after this movie came out in Austria, they they
Hmm.
found in what's it called, Tyrol, in the south. They
Hmm.
found like a cache of just a big cache of American guns and ammo and munitions, just like in a lake. Basically, they're like, what's going on with this? So that's like, this is like very much in the mood, in the air for Europe at the time. um and so he's staged as like what if we just get some jackass to do this? We can't get anyone smart. I think
It was De Commissar. De Commissar was trying to get Falco back, but
yeah.
Falco got himself first. Let me tell you. R.I.P.
R.I.P. So the choice of Marcel is why the plan fails, because these days they just have their guys on Discord channels telling teenagers where to buy guns, and back then they were
Yeah.
just stuck with whoever the local town criminal was. In this case, a guy who
Whoever came by.
exactly you don't have these FBI agents in chat rooms talking up mentally ill people. Um,
No, certainly not. I don't think they had Discordium in that Roman province at the time until much later.
right.
Discordium had not been released.
No. That would be a good bit for a modern one, though.
Oh God.
I don't think anyone has the
Yeah.
juice to do it, though.
I think the only people that really come to mind, and this might be even a bit of a reach, because they've never done, well, they have done period pieces, but they've never done anything like Ben-Hur or anything. But Matt Johnson, the guy who did Operation Avalanche, Nirvana, the band, the show, like that guy is
And
the only
Blackberry, and
comedian.
he's got another thing coming out, right? Like he's working on something else that's pretty big. But
Yeah, that's not canon to me because he's not working with his team. I think he got
oh
produced out of it, and he just got like, oh, you got to just be the director.
yeah,
We'll get some other guy to do the DP stuff.
but
It's not going to be the same.
no, but that would be yeah. There are a few people, but I feel like there's so much like skittishness around those kind of subjects that I don't know that we'll ever get like good satire making fun of it because it
I
is so
mean, The Chosen was
serious.
almost that,
It kind of
right?
is. Yeah, unintentional.
Yeah. Who said it had to be intentional?
That's true. That's true. Sometimes the best thing is on, and that does kind of get me into like the Frenchness of this movie because as they're doing all of these bits, and I have to ask you what your take on this is because I can go either way with the French. Okay, as they're panning through all of this stuff in the opening minutes, you see. And I don't want to go all corny, satire requires clarity of purpose, sort of, you know, woke scold thing. There are banana skirted Africans, like very
Oh yeah.
clearly. Is that what's your take? Is that them making fun of these period pieces Orientalism, or is it just French racism?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's a really good excuse to get out a little bit of the racism with zero repercussions in 1982. I think today you couldn't get away with doing that maybe, but
Well, it
but
was
I think that
you say that, but
since everybody gets a little send up, so I think it's fair play. I don't know.
well, you say that, but I did. I was reading this, and the director, what's his name again? He's got a mononym.
Jean Yan.
Oh no, sorry,
Oh,
the star Koulosh.
Coluche. Coluche.
He's not the star. He was associated with Charlie Hebdo. Charlie Hebdo
Yes.
in the 70s and 80s when they were kind of like kicking off, and I'm like, and yet they still kind of do a lot of that stuff today. They would put an African guy in a banana belt on the cover of the magazine.
They can't get any worse than drawing Muhammad. I'm sorry.
No,
That's a little
that's what I mean.
crazy.
It's like they totally
It's a
would
little
do that.
much.
So that's
Yeah. It's definitely in the same vein of comedy, right? Like that. Oh, look at these crazy freaks that we put an excuse to found an excuse to get in there. But honestly, I don't know. I think you if you're not looking for it, you're not going to find it.
that's right. That
And I wasn't looking for it.
fair enough. That's exactly what I'm looking for. So I need permission.
Yeah.
Uh, so so Caesar arrives after this plot has been put into what would you call that?
Into
Engaged
motion.
into
Yeah.
motion. Jesus, I can't talk today. And he is like, and we were talking about this at the top, but he is maybe the most homophobic stereotype I've seen in a minute.
I think
And
he
yet,
is. maybe the most accurate acting that we've seen. I think that that is exactly how a Roman emperor would conduct themselves.
It's played up like 10%, but in the first part of it where he's talking about like, oh no, I need to watch these circus games. I need to watch the big strong beefy gladiators. It definitely had the kind of like effete Trump sort of element of where he's like, I just love my big handsome guys. I love my big handsome generals. And I'm like, okay, so there is something to this. There is something to these guys. They
It is very unintentionally, I think, Trumpian, because a lot of the same thing is there, right? Like everything's gilt, everything is very
yes.
opulent, like to a point. There's a lot of black marble and onyx and shiny stuff, and a lot of piano black being used. And all it makes me think of is like this is the same way that these guys act today,
He's
right?
worried that everything is too gauche and tacky, but everything that he has is gauche and tacky. It's like it is very like, oh, we can't have advertisements. That's icky. But like also everything's this gold covered, like ridiculous sort of yeah.
We're
It's
gonna have a beef tallow restaurant in the in Washington, catering exclusively to our government. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
nasty.
So Marcel basically goes he finds out there the revolt folks meet at the catacombs, but he ends up going there at the same time as Caesar, who's undercover in a mustache, leading to a great bit where Marcel accidentally wanders into an underground gay club at the catacombs and can't find the wherever these revolutionaries are meeting, if they even exist.
If they even exist, right? My favorite thing. Well, that is like where it turns into cruising for a little bit.
Yes,
The one hair I have in my soup here for that scene is that they go underground under the ruins. Ruins of what? It's a quarter to two before Jesus Christ. What do you mean there's ruins?
that's the best part is that it is this kind of like mix between like and it is another one of those funny anachronisms of like of there are already ruins there, which I mean I'm sure there were in some places, but like that feels very much like
Yeah.
medieval depictions of Rome where it's all catacombs and people meeting secret societies and things like that. That's when you get a lot of those secret societies coming up. It's
That would be a really interesting way to play it. To treat it as like the manuscript found in Saragossa, like
yeah.
one of these like a frame story within a frame story within a frame story, and then have like two 18th century cuirassiers fighting to the death, and they find this old tome. Oh, it's the secret third gospel of Jason. Who is Jason? Oh, he was a stoner disciple.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and
It's
and
very
here we go.
very like Name of the Rose starts out with something like that of like, oh, it's the manuscript that this guy found when he left this country, and he found this old discussion of this, and there's obvious emendations and there's anachronisms in it, and yeah, totally. So
Yeah, yeah.
he ends up in the gay club, um, and the first guy, which is I will put in the music here because the music is really special. It
Peak.
bumps it what it homosexual
Homosexualistis.
homosexualis
Homosexualis
discoteca.
discothecus. Yes.
Viendo nuestro apodo de homosexuales discotecas.
I was cackling. It's so good. That was so delightful, and that's where it turns into like cruising. Like it is so much of that kind of stereotype of 70s leather bars and stuff like Judas. Everyone looks like they're a Judas Priest sort of vibes, and and so like through a comedy of errors, he ends up meeting Caesar, who's there with with a big mustache undercover to meet some guys, and like he's talking in generic terms like, oh, so where does the secret meet? And he's like, oh, it's no secret, sort of like
We're all proud and out here,
yeah,
honey. I don't know where you've been.
the
Well,
bottom jokes are great.
unstated in all this is that Ben-Hur Marcel, the unwitting hero of our story, is wearing, I think, like period wear for the time, like a leather vest, and it's not one of those. It's not one of those leather vests. It's a regular like. it's like a caveman, something a caveman would wear,
Yeah.
rather than like something an SS officer would, if you catch my drift. The guys in the homosexualist discotecos are wearing the Hugo Boss.
Yeah, I was
This
going to say
guy's
that
not.
they're all looking like Vito in The Sopranos in the gay bar, and he's walking in wearing like workman clothes, which is uh, really good. So Caesar leads him back to his place, and that's when he finally figured like to have sex with him, thinking that's what it's about, and he thinks he's being led to the headquarters of the revolutionaries. Um, and that's when they find it. He finally reveals, like, that clarifies that, oh, I'm here to plan to kill Caesar, and that's it's really yeah, really something. And that's when we get to, I think, Cleopatra arriving.
Oh, I'm sorry. Before we leave,
Oh yeah,
one last visual thing for those who can't find the movie anywhere. Think of it as Thomas Lennon in Reno 911.
yes,
Lieutenant
yes.
Dangle is Caesar in this scene, and it is actually he's Caesar in the entire film. I think that's the thing I like the most about it, is that it's all Lieutenant Dangle.
It really is. Yeah, Thomas Lennon. Oh my God. See, Thomas Lennon in a period piece, like a period satire piece. It
Dude,
has to happen. And the
needs to
shit
happen.
they get is like bad late period Mel Brooks, but I just want something good with these guys because there is so much to be mined here.
The Reno 911 movies are not bad. They are passable. They're not a waste of time, but they could be so much better. Can you imagine Reno 911 in like the 1800s when they're like patty whacking, like, yeah, literally patty whacking
Yeah, you
in New
could
York
have them
City?
as like Pinkertons or something. Like you could, it would be there. There's so much good comedy not being made right now, and it's a goddamn shame. Passable is fine, even I don't even mind passable. That's like that's okay for me.
The one on the cruise is like very marginal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, back to not Thomas Lennon.
So Marcel's thrown in the dungeons. Cleopatra arrives in her litter, whatever the big carrier that they've got. It gets stuck and damaged, and so she ends up at Marcel's shop with his friend Paulinus, the who is I think the direct. I think that's Jean Yan, right?
Yes, yes. That's Coluche is Ben-Hur Marcel, and Jean Yan is the cool guy who never never makes a mistake,
Which is,
basically.
I don't know that I don't know much about Jean Yan, but that is I was kind of like he put himself in that role. It's not the meatiest role, but it is pretty funny to give yourself like the good guy role in the
Yeah, but the unambiguous good guy, the one who's not stupid.
yeah. So while they're there, Cleopatra notices a scroll and like a painting of her
Hmm.
grandfather, the Egyptian pharaoh, and it does this flashback. And this is one of the best gags in the movie. So in a flashback, her grandfather orders his own grandson, Cleopatra's brother, to be put in a basket on the Nile because there's some coming persecution, and saying that a Hebrew will nurse him and he will one day become the pharaoh. And there's a sight
Sure, I
gag.
read that in a book one time, I think.
Yeah,
I guess that's what happens.
and this is where it gets to one of my favorite sight gags in this movie, where they line up at the banks of the Nile and find she goes there and there's already a long line of women with baskets trying to put their babies in, which is phenomenal. And that's so good because that is like an incredibly common folklore story at the time. Like that was, probably the one of the earlier ones is Sargon II. It seems to be
Hmm.
playing on like the, Atrahasis or Noah and the Ark mythology. It's like a miniaturized version of that. You put the savior of humanity into this basket on the water, and
Do you not think it's more like a "I'm so cool, I did all that shit when I was a baby"? You know, like that kind of a story?
it's definitely that because that like those they became like obsessed, especially starting the Iron Age with like these origin stories. Because before that, you get a lot of like probably the earliest David story had nothing about his childhood. Even like the early Jesus story, when stories started getting written about a lot of these famous figures, they don't start with the origins because you usually didn't know much about
Who
that.
gives a
Because
fuck?
who gives a
Who gives a
fuck?
fuck?
Like wherever you grew up, and so they invent these absurd stories and they often reuse them. Like this one ends up in Egypt. It's in Mesopotamia. It's in the Bible. It is it's everywhere. So I thought that was an incredible. I think that that's what they were getting at is kind of like this is a and even Jesus is like he goes to Egypt. He flees from the persecution of Herod, and there is like there everyone seems to be dodging genocidal kings. Cyrus the Great was also one where his father or grandfather tried to kill him. Sort of like it is just this super common thing.
Right, right. I do love that it like this movie does have the tact and the presence of mind to not bonk you over the head with it because that it's a French movie, right? When you're living in a super Catholic country like that, that shit is bonked into your head as a
Yeah.
child,
Yeah,
right?
you can imagine
In
the
every
like
way.
Aaron Sorkin version of this, where it just tells you over and over again, lecturing you like he did in what was the Studio 50 on the Sunset Strip, where like he's like, I'm going to put together a sketch that will dismantle religion, sort of thing. Like that would be like the American version of this movie, made with by someone with some sort of edge to it and some axe to grind. Uh,
Right. Right. This one, though, not a lot of that kind of spite, not a lot of religious spite.
No, it's mostly made. The main targets seem to be French culture, which is pretty funny. I think that's again